when I got to the waterfront, there were a lot of other guys like me, and there were no women working on the waterfront at that time. And by that I mean radicals, some much more organizationally involved with a particular party than me. But it was part of the tradition of the union to accept workers, members, who would not meet the political litmus test of an employer or another union. I mean, so many of the unions who bought into the Cold War exclusion, you know, like of communists, for example, from members from office or whatever. But the ILWU had not just individualists and misfits and all that would endure the rigors of the work in order to also have the independence of coming from the work and being well paid and all that kind of stuff. But that in the 60s, that there were a lot of college dropouts, and there were also some Vietnam vets who came back radicalized by their wartime experience and were part of, you know, I would say out of, we called it our group, our 69 group, the B-men who were registered as B-men in 1969. We were the 69 group. There were about 700 of us, and I would say out of the 700, at least 100 would be those that were radicals of some form or another, of all races and ethnicities. And it fit with the union's reputation. I mean, it was true in the union in 1934. In the 1950s, that the union took in men who had been driven out of other jobs, including in maritime, who had been screened off the ships with the loyalty oaths and security investigations and Coast Guard screening programs, were screened off the ships out of other trades, the seafaring unions. And then out of others, school teachers that were expelled from their jobs in school districts because of their politics and affiliations. So who we were as you know, guys in their 20s and 30s at that time in 1969, you know, was to us part of that tradition. Now, we weren't looked at in the same way. I mean, the old timers on the waterfront, no matter how radical they were not looking at students or former students, you know, the same way as they viewed themselves. You know, the picket line, scarred veterans. But eventually it happened. There was a building of mutual respect and all that, which was, I think, mainly because of how much respect we had for them, for the old timers.